102 miles per hour. That's faster than most people drive on the highway. But for Paul Skenes, that's just another day at work. In his first 7 games as a major league pitcher, he's made some of baseball's best hitters look like they've never picked up a bat before. One player even dropped his bat and walked away laughing after Skenes threw 3 straight pitches past him. But get this, just a few years ago, Skenes wasn't even sure if he'd ever throw a baseball again. He had to make a choice that would change his entire life, a choice between following his family's military tradition or chasing an impossible dream. Right now, he's the most talked about rookie baseball has seen in years. Every time he steps on the field, thousands of extra fans pack the stadium just to watch him pitch. But some people are worried. They say he's pushing himself too hard, throwing too fast, too often. They're concerned his arm won't last. The crazy part? None of this was supposed to happen. This guy wasn't even a full-time pitcher until recently. So how did a college catcher suddenly become the most feared pitcher in baseball? Well, that's where this story gets interesting. Let's go back to Orange County, 2002. That's where this whole thing started. Paul Skenes was just a regular kid who fell in love with baseball at age 7. But here's what's funny. If you saw him back then, you'd never guess he'd become this pitching monster. He wasn't even a pitcher at all. In high school, Skenes was actually one of the best hitters on his team. He'd put on his catcher's gear, get behind the plate, and absolutely crush the ball when it was his turn to bat. But then something wild happened. He just kept growing and growing. By his senior year, this guy was 6'6". That's NBA size right there. During his junior year, his coach had this crazy idea. Hey, why don't you try pitching a little bit? Sure, Skenes would close out some games here and there, no big deal, right? Wrong. He started throwing 91 miles per hour, making other teams look silly, and put up numbers that made everyone's jaw drop, a 0.67 ERA. That means he barely let anyone score, ever. But then COVID hit, and his senior season got cut short. Most guys would have been crushed. But Skenes, he had other plans. See, baseball wasn't his only dream. Since he was a kid, he'd always wanted to fly planes in the military. So when the Air Force Academy came calling, offering him a chance to play baseball and become a pilot, it seemed like the perfect deal. Looking back now, no one could have guessed what was about to happen next. His time at Air Force was wild. Imagine being so good that they let you do everything, pitch, catch, and hit. In 48 games, Skenes crushed 11 home runs when he wasn't pitching. But when he got on the mound, that's when things got scary. He was throwing 95, 96, 97, and then one day, boom, 100 miles per hour. The crazy part? He was still just a closer back then, just coming in for an inning or two at the end of games. But in his sophomore year, they finally let him start games, and man, did he make the most of it. He was dominating on both sides, hitting bombs at the plate and striking everyone out on the mound. But here's where things got tough. See, staying at Air Force meant he'd have to serve in the military after graduation. That could put his baseball career on hold for years. Skenes was stuck between two worlds, the military life he'd always wanted and this insane baseball talent that was getting bigger by the day. His coach saw what was happening. He pulled Skenes aside one day and told him straight up, "We're talking about millions of dollars you're leaving on the table if you stay here." Even his coach knew, sometimes you have to change your plans when life throws you a curveball. So Skenes made the hardest call of his life. He left the Air Force, but he didn't just pick any school. He went to LSU, one of the best baseball programs out there, and that's when everything changed. At LSU, they had one message for him: forget catching, forget hitting. We want you on the mound, full time, no distractions, just throw that ball as hard as you can. At LSU, Skenes wasn't just throwing hard, he was learning how to actually pitch. See, before this, he'd just rear back and fire fastballs past everyone. But now, he was building an arsenal that would make big league hitters look silly. He added a slider that moved like it was possessed, a curveball that dropped off a table, and his fastball. It wasn't just fast anymore, it was touching 102 miles per hour. But here's what made Skenes different. He had zero chill when it came to winning. This guy would throw 120 pitches in a game like it was nothing. And we're not talking about easy throws, we're talking 100+ miles per hour heaters in the 9th inning. People started freaking out. Baseball Twitter was losing its mind. He's going to hurt himself. This is crazy. You can't let him throw that much. But Skenes, he didn't care. He was on a mission. In one season, he struck out 209 batters. That's a record. His ERA was 1.69, basically unhittable. The craziest part, in his last 4 games at LSU, he threw over 120 pitches in 3 of them. Most pitchers these days are done after 100 pitches, not Skenes. All this led LSU straight to a national championship. And suddenly, every MLB scout in America was drooling over this kid from Air Force who turned into a pitching machine. The Pirates drafted him first overall and gave him $9.2 million just to sign, the biggest bonus ever. But here's where it gets really interesting. When Skenes got to the minor leagues, they tried to slow him down. The Pirates did everything they could to hold Skenes back. In AAA, they wouldn't let him pitch more than 3 innings at a time. But even with those limits, he was just ridiculous. In his first 4 starts, nobody scored a run against him. Not one. He was striking out half the guys who stepped up to bat. You could tell it was driving him crazy. After 1 game, he couldn't hide it anymore. "I wasn't happy," he said. "It's frustrating." But what could he do? The Pirates were protecting their $9.2 million investment. Still, his numbers were just stupid. A 0.99 ERA in 7 starts. That's basically perfect. The Pirates couldn't hold him back anymore. Everyone knew it was time. The whole baseball world was waiting. May 11th, 2024, Pittsburgh. 35,000 fans packed the stadium just to see this kid pitch. His first pitch, 101 miles per hour. Welcome to the big leagues. The first 2 guys he faced, strike out, but then something weird happened. He gave up 4 runs. Not exactly the perfect start everyone expected. But his next game, that's when Paul Skenes showed everyone what he was really about. He struck out the first 7 guys he faced, 7 in a row. Nobody in Pirates history had ever done that before. He went 6 innings without giving up a hit. And get this, in just his first 2 games, he threw 29 pitches over 100 miles per hour. That's not normal. That's not even close to normal. The really crazy thing? In his first 7 starts in the majors, Skenes went 4-0 with a 2.29 ERA and 53 strikeouts. The Pirates used to get about 19,000 fans per game. When Skenes pitches, that jumps to 30,000. This 22-year-old kid is literally changing the game. Here's the thing about Paul Skenes. He's not just another hard-throwing pitcher. He's different. Every time he steps on the mound, there's this feeling in the air, like you might see something that's never been done before. Sure, there are people worried about his arm. They look at how hard he throws, how many pitches he's willing to throw, and they get nervous. Baseball's seen too many young arms burn out too fast. But Skenes isn't built like other pitchers. This is a guy who was ready to fly military jets, who caught and pitched and hit home runs, who chose to leave everything behind to chase this dream. Right now, he's only 22 years old. Think about that. Most guys his age are still figuring out how to pitch in the minor leagues. Meanwhile, Skenes is making major league hitters look like they're swinging pool noodles at the ball. We don't know how this story ends. Maybe the Warriors are right. Maybe throwing this hard, this often, will catch up to him. Or maybe we're watching the start of something we've never seen before. Maybe we're watching a guy who's going to change how we think about what's possible in baseball. But one thing's for sure, every 5th day, when Paul Skenes takes the mound, baseball feels different, more electric, more exciting, and 30,000 fans aren't showing up just to watch another baseball game. They're showing up to watch history in the making.